Hello, 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 and welcome to another Scoutcast. It's been a while. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL mode, and we are also joined by Seb. Seb, have you been missing FPL?
What's FPL, mate?
Exactly.
Yeah, hi. Good to. I mean, we haven't done one for a couple of weeks, have we?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
We need to catch back up to what's happening FPL. I'm told big things are happening, which I found out about 12 minutes ago. So I'm excited to learn more, Andy. Tell me more.
Yes, we'll be talking about the brand new game mode in about 5 minutes, but we will say hello to Rich first. Rich, how's it going? Sitting pretty there on 16k.
Yeah, I saw my massive green arrow on free hit last week. Yeah,
Yeah.
all good. Yeah, I said guaranteed green arrow, didn't I?
It is good because this is we obviously didn't stream last week, and that was after the worst scoring average FPL week ever. Like ever. I think it was 12 points was the average last week.
Even like in a snowed off nonsense week.
Apparently, it was the worst week we've
Yeah,
ever had on
statistically.
average. Yeah, I
But who
think
who you quizzed me? Who did I say I was most excited about? You
Seb.
can't even remember now, can you? I was
Seb?
excited about Seb.
Yeah.
Well, Seb wasn't actually here. It was Gibbs White.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. There we
yeah.
go. The main man.
The only
Oh.
place I think I got points off my bench.
No, fair play. Obviously, I had a Langer. I didn't go quite so well, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute because
No, we don't have to.
it won't take us long to add up our points from last week. We've got a massive show for you tonight because there is so much that's been going on in FPL. We are going to talk about the new game mode very, very quickly. We are going to be looking at our points from last week, which we are not going to be dwelling on for too long. Then we're going to be talking about the confirmed double game week. So the massive thing that happened over this international break is that the fixtures have been announced and we've got our confirmed double game weeks, blank game weeks, and some more kind of we think they're going to be happening double game weeks as well. So we're going to be talking about those too. We're going to be looking at the fixtures. We're going to be talking an awful lot about our strategies moving forward. We have three people on the pod here who have three very different strategies. My strategy, Rich's strategy, and Seb's thinking of his strategy as we're going. So we'll see how we get on with those. Then we've got our over or under again, which is going to be very interesting this week because we've got some big players in there. Then we've got our best teams. We've got a community team. And we've got a little bit of Q&A with you at the end as well. We got loads of people in the chat already, so thank you so much for joining us. We've got Claire FPL, Sean, we've got FPL Raptor, Evening Raptor, we've got Heather, Jose Campos, Stephen Harker, Stay. We've got loads of people. Stay. I love how out of sync the audio to the video is. Is it that bad? Let us know if that's everybody, because it genuinely could be. I've got no idea. Let's have a little bit of a chat first, though, at this brand new game mode that has been brought out by Fantasy Premier League. Seb's been championing this ever since it came out, so he's excited to talk to everybody about it. So I've just got the tweet up here that Fantasy Premier League sent out. And it says Fantasy Challenge provides the chance to win prizes with a brand new challenge every single game week. Will you accept the challenge? So basically, it is like you are free hitting every week and you can pick your team from new and you're just playing against everybody else for that week. You don't have mini leagues yet, which I think is one of the biggest things they might change moving forward. But
There are mini leagues.
Oh, are there? Oh, I didn't think there
Yeah,
were mini
there are
leagues.
mini
There
leagues.
Brilliant. That's how much I know about it as well.
I'm in
And
many mini leagues already.
are you?
No,
Oh, right. I was going to say.
no, not yet, not yet. I'm going to pick and choose some great ones.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So it looks like it could be quite fun. There are different stipulations every week as well. So, for instance, the first week it's unlimited budget. The week after, I think there's one where you can only pick Liverpool and Man United players, something like that. They scored double. And then there's one with a forward
And Man
scored
United
double.
players would need that, won't they?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, just to catch up. So it could be interesting. I have my reservations about it a little bit, but before I go on to those and bring the tone down, we're going to go to Rich first, so Seb can think about what he thinks about it. But Rich, what do you think about this new game mode?
I mean, I do think it's exciting. It's nice they're actually doing something. As in, they had a draft, didn't they, a couple of seasons ago. The only thing I struggle with is I'm so addicted to FPL that I find it hard to care about other game modes as much. Like if my player scores in draft, but I don't own them in FPL, I'm not exactly happy. Like I can maybe tell myself, oh yeah, I'm glad Salah scored because I've got him in draft. But really, I'm not glad.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what they're competing against. They're competing against themselves because the main game is so good.
Yeah.
And so addictive. But I mean, it's good to have a little bit more fun, and it's nice they're actually trying to add extra stuff to the game to
Yeah.
try and make it a bit less stagnant. But I mean, it could well be fun as well, and it's beta tested, isn't it? So
Yeah.
this could all be. I'm sure there'll be feedback, and there maybe improve stuff like
Yeah.
properly for next season.
And I like the idea of, if it really took off, I love the idea of people being able to do content around this as well. That would be a bit different. Seb, what do you think about the game mode from, what you've seen of it so far?
I mean, it sounds like you say like they'll be competing with themselves with FPL, but I guess probably not as much as you think. It sounds like it's targeted. Obviously, we know FPL kind of exists to generate engagement with the Premier League, and I think is a successful tool at doing that. So realistically, they've probably looked at, yeah, we'd like to introduce new ways of playing and new exciting things. Should we add to the main game, or should we add something different? And I think this probably captures a share of the market, especially at this stage of the season. And I know it'll probably be there from the beginning if it's successful next year. But people who maybe have lost interest in the traditional game, we're 30 odd weeks in now. You could be well off. You could be not updating your team each week. Whereas you see this, especially with a fresh challenge, you might think, oh, cool, Liverpool, Man United, I've got an edge there. And it's a way for you to engage and compete on a much shorter timescale. So I would understand why it wouldn't excite or might not excite a lot of people who listen to this, because we're pretty hardcore about the main game. But I think there's a good chance it'll be successful as a sort of more casual thing you can dip into and out of every week.
Yeah, I think that's the way to maybe play it, is that you don't have to do it every week. Like you said, we kind of think about FPL an awful lot, whereas having a game that you can pick up and drop down whenever you want to, I think could be quite fun. And one week you go, do you know what? Let's just pick this up and see what happens. And I think that could be quite fun. The only thing I will say is, and this is my biggest reservation about it, is I don't really know why they're using the prices from the game to make this game. So you're doing a free hit every week. And so, for instance, someone like
weird.
Palmer, who is essential in everybody's team, is still going to be in this game in everybody's team because he's going to be under 6 million. They should change the prices every week. That's the only thing I'd say. So
yeah, that's weird. A bit like some of the other games where they're like weekly games and you have a price that's appropriate. You basically price them according to what you think they're going to score, and it's your game. It becomes over under, right? That's kind of then the game you're trying to play, right? You're trying to maximize budget and get over or under expected score, and lots of variance gets to play because it's 1 week long. But yeah, using prices from the full FPL game, I guess it creates that link for people, that cognitive link to the main game. So if Palmer is good in the game we're playing, Palmer it's the same proposition, right? So it's less of a leap for people. But then maybe that goes against what I was saying, where it's not meant to be for us.
Yeah, that's the only thing I would say, because I think you'd be surprised after playing it for 3-4 weeks. I know they've got the different stipulations and things, but I think after playing for 3-4 weeks, you'll realise that certain players are in the game a lot because they're so cheap, and actually they shouldn't be in real. If that makes sense now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how it goes. But I think I tweeted earlier saying if it's still going in August, I'd be surprised, but you never know. Like it could be okay. Draft is another one. Like I love the idea of draft, but it just feels like something they've chucked out and not really looked at again. If that makes sense. What do you think, Rich?
I mean, draft, I think that relies on being with good people, because if you do a draft league with 9 people who aren't actually playing, then what's the point? I think you've got to have that, a bit like the NFL game. I know you play NFL fantasy as well, but I think you've got to have a good group. Whereas the only thing with this that I'm disappointed in is, let's say, I think every week your score's reset. So there's no global league. You don't keep your score and accumulate over the season. I think they've missed a bit of a trick there, because something just with the main FPL game, sometimes I do realise the one boring thing is I'm looking at rolling this week and then I'll have gone like a month without using a transfer. So I'm just spending my time planning while knowing I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. At least with this game, you could go you could pick 5 players from the same team. So you could have 3, 4, 5 defenders.
Yeah, you can really
potentially from the same team, and that's a lot more fun, because I mean you could sit there 1 week thinking something, you could think Wolves are going to keep a clean sheet this week, and be very, very confident about it. But because of we have limited transfers in FPL, or the fixtures might be bad after that, you're never going to actually go with that hunch.
Yeah.
So you could actually back yourself. When people say, "Oh, I knew this was going to happen this week,"
you could actually do that.
You could have done it there, couldn't you, mate? 'Cause you got.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And I will say as well, people will find out very, very quickly, it is a very, very different way of playing when you're doing just a weekly thing where your team changes every week to how you play in FPL. So I've done it before where I play weekly games, and the way you build a weekly team is completely different to how you build a team in FPL. So, like Rich alluded to there, you're stacking certain teams, you're going, if you can pick 5 from one team as well, you will just go all out on certain teams and things like that. And it's going to be interesting to see how people play it. So I'll probably will play it just to like make a team and just see how it goes. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it does. I just hope it isn't kind of just left to die like Draft was a little bit.
There's two other things on it, actually. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, because I feel like Draft, when it first came out, you saw a bit of content about it and it actually was quite exciting to start with, and that's really died off. And it would be interesting to see how this one goes as well. At least they're doing something, but I have my reservations.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I've also noticed that, Praz and I think Fran have already found a couple of possible loopholes for the game.
Yeah.
So there's going to be that as well. There was one other thing. I can't. Do you know what? It must have been that important.
Tell us what the loopholes are. Right?
I've just forgotten. The loophole seems to be, and we don't know if it's confirmed, but I think if you've got a player captain, let's say you've got a player vice captained, and they get a huge score, you could then because you can transfer out players until they play.
There's no deadline
until their game time.
Oh, so
it's interactive during the week, a bit like Ultimate FPL used to be.
And
if you remember that,
it's because you've got a bench as well. Whereas a lot of these formats don't have a bench, so because you've got a bench, you can swap people over.
So if your vice captain goes big, you can then transfer your captain out for like an injured player or something.
Yeah.
And the thought process is then you'll get the vice captain.
That's kind of so. Like, my assumption was this was obviously a slightly more casual approach. But if it's asking you to make management decisions during the weekend, that's the opposite, right? That's more hardcore than FPL in that one weekend. That's more the Sky approach, and we know that attracts a different people, or at least a different approach. That sounds. I mean, I've known about this for about 25 minutes, so I don't want to criticize, but I'm interested to know what like the goals and targets here are, because that sounds like a confused aim.
There was the Ultimate FPL, if you remember that. That was one problem with that, because I remember you had to pay for that. It was only for people in Britain, and I remember I paid a £5 for that team. But and this was actually less engaged, because basically you had a deadline. Let's say a team played on Friday, there was a deadline. Let's say there were multiple games on the Saturday. You had a deadline at the first game.
Yeah.
Then Sunday you had a deadline at the first game, and I remember multiple times I forgot to set my team on the Sunday deadline. So, and I'm quite engaged with this game. So this is next level, because on a Sunday you could have, a game at 2:30, and you could have a game at 4:30 or something.
Yeah. Before we finish discussing this, I will just say, Rich, you made a really good point there about the, and Seb said it as well, about that actually it's not for the casuals because of having to change your team. I mean, Flappy and I have played Euros fantasy football, World Cup fantasy football. It's really intense for 4 weeks because you are constantly having to change like players around, thinking about captains, thinking about who's playing first. And actually, like, it's harder than you think it is. So we'll see how it goes. But if anybody's interested, give it a go, and maybe as a Scoutcast lot, we'll set up a little bit of a league so people can play against us if they want to. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. Lots of people in the chat do not care about this game mode.
And Joe's doing a video, isn't he? Joe's doing a video on it.
So he'll talk about it more. Right, let's move on to our points from last week then. So here's my gorgeous points. I did not free hit, but obviously I wildcarded 2 weeks ago. I had 10 players playing. I got 15 points. 15 points for a 5k red arrow, which is mental, to be perfectly honest. I was 36k, moved down to 41k. I had Areola in goal with 3. He was my top scoring player. I had Doughty with 1, Reguilon with -3. Obviously got red carded in the first 10 minutes, I think it was. Doggy with 1, Palmer didn't play, Bowen with 2, Sonu was my captain with 4, Elanga with 2, Morris with 2, Watkins with 2, and Tony with 1. It was literally like I was doing a mic test with all my scores. It's absolutely ridiculous. Gabriel, Saka, Zabani all on the bench, and Neto on the bench as well. The only thing I can say is, at least I wildcarded before and got quite a nice rank rise. I'm still okay and well set up moving forward. Still have my free hit. I mean, just what more can you say about this week? Like I said, it was the lowest scoring average week ever in FPL. 15 points, but to only get a 6k red arrow on 15 points kind of subs it all up, really.
I think, to be honest, I think that's kind of a pretty massive win for you in isolation, because maybe you'd rather have your wild card, but I remember saying last time we spoke about the free hit that if everyone scores 40 this week and you score 20, that's a big loss, blah blah blah, but you've got the free hit later. And in a week where everyone gets 100 points and you get 110, you've actually made less on your free hit. Well, I got 21 and you got 15, I think, here, mate. So 6 points is all you've got to get on me when you free hit. I think you're in the driving seat there.
Yeah. Well, we're not sure about that. We'll talk about that when we talk about discussions in a minute. But it was definitely not as bad a week as I thought it was going to be. So I'll take that. Rich, you got 21 points, which I think was quite a unique score this week.
There are so many 21 pointers around.
There was, yeah.
Also, just quickly, I mean, do you remember about 4 years ago, there was a week just like this?
Yeah.
And the only difference was that Salah scored on St. Patrick's Day, scored like 4 goals, and it completely papered over the cracks. So that was so it's not rare what's happened. It's just, I guess, I mean, the captain blanket as well. 21 points. I spoke to Bricky a fair bit. He almost convinced me to go for Burke over Region.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. So yeah, I went with pretty much very template team. The only return I got was Gibbs White. And obviously Region got a -3. So that's basically odds count as no returns.
Yeah.
So 21 points. I mean, I'm happy because the thing is I didn't miss out on anyone. Like I was never going to go Muniz, for example. Yeah. So it's done what it needed to do. Just the green arrow was smaller than I'd hoped.
Yeah. 21 points. I think you take it. Seb, moving on to you. You also had a very unique score this week.
Yeah, just finding a different way to get 21. It's not just solving a problem, is it? Can you get 21? How many different ways?
It's just blackjack, isn't it?
There's an FPL challenge for you. Everyone's got to score the same. You've got to get 21 points one week. Just however can you get them. So yeah, I mean, I won't go.
We just split in twos forever.
I won't go through the team. It's the same as pretty much everyone's. I don't think I actually changed it from when we chatted. From what we put up on stream, we were doing free hit teams. I literally think this is the draft I had. The only real decision I had was, do I play Sufal over Region, who was flagged the last time I checked my team? I hear there was a leak. I didn't even see that leak. I just decided to leave it as it were. So I could have had a few more points off the bench, but I didn't, and I got the same as everyone else. So I'm happy enough. We'll move on.
Yeah, nice. I don't know whether it's just me, by the way, but I think your sound might have gone down a little bit again, just to warn you.
It keeps happening. I think the mic needs a little bit of love, but I'll keep turning it back up. It keeps dropping itself back down.
You can give it a bit of love on live on stream if you want, but we'll save that for the SCOUTCAST after hours. Confirmed double game week. So this was the big thing we were waiting for over the international break, and it dropped. I don't know who originally posted this on Twitter, by the way. I really apologise. Somebody said they saw it and they tweeted it, but they didn't say who the original credit was. So if somebody sees it, can you let me know so I can say it and credit it on Twitter or whatever? But I do apologise. But if you know, let me know. But this is the summary of the double game weeks that we've got coming up. So in game week 34, the confirmed doubles are Arsenal, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Wolves, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace and Everton. And Spurs have a blank game week in game week 34, which was quite surprising to a few people. Then in game weeks 35 or 36, we're not sure which way it's going to go yet. We've got Spurs and Chelsea who will double. And then in game week 37, the likely double game weeks are going to be Spurs, Chelsea, Brighton, Man United, Newcastle and City. So obviously Spurs have a blank there, but they also have 2 double game weeks and so do Chelsea. Now, Rich, if I go to you first, when these kind of dropped, what were your initial thoughts? What did you look at this and think, oh, this works for these kind of people, or oh, these kind of players are going to be essential from now until the end of the season? What were your kind of initial thoughts about it?
I mean, my initial thought was I was very grateful that Arsenal dropped there.
Yeah.
My strategy, the 3 hit 29 strategy, having 3 Arsenal already, pretty happy with that. Bournemouth, I guess, was a nice bonus as well. Obviously, some FA Cup upsets, help that along the way. I mean, the big surprise though was that Spurs are blanking. I didn't see anyone mention that Spurs might blank in 34. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one that's probably forced a lot of people down quite narrow chip strategies, because I think a lot of when you use your remaining chips are going to be based upon how many Spurs you have and what chips you have left.
Yeah.
As well, because I mean, you're not going to bench boost in 34 if you've got Spurs players because they blank, for example, and then you're going to need a wild card because they're going to have doubles, after 35 onwards.
A lot of people, by the way, saying it's from All About FPL, this graphic. So if it is, make sure you give them a follow because it's lovely. One thing I was going to say there, Rich, about that double game week. Obviously, you said it fell quite nicely with the free hit 29 lot. if you're looking at game week 34, I think a lot of people, me for instance, we're looking at free hit in 34. We're not going to go massively in a strategy quite yet. We're going to do that in a bit. But is there a little bit of a worry that people can get to a good double game week team in 34, and so that kind of hurts people that still have a free hit, or do you think it won't be a worry by then?
I mean, I think it does. It's not ideal. I think there were some Newcastle fixtures, the Man United fixtures that were in 37. If they'd gone into 34, I think that would have benefited people with the free hit a lot more. But don't forget, there's other stuff that can happen. We're just looking at this now, aren't we? But look back to when Liverpool doubled last time. Like I had Trent, for example. I'd held Trent for weeks. Basically, you want some injuries or you want some suspensions.
Chaos.
Like let's say because Darwin could actually end up getting suspended. It's still possible for 34. So yeah, you're right. Talking of chaos, you want that. You want some, as much chaos as possible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I think for most teams, it's going to be quite easy to get a good team that week.
And Seb, obviously, we preach about it so much at the beginning of the season about don't use your chips early in the season, because navigating this kind of period when you've got chips, wild card and free hit in particular, because free hit's one of those things that means for a week you don't have to plan for it. Wild card is obviously one of the most powerful ones you've got, and you're obviously planning for the rest of the season with your wild card. You're looking at this now. And if you've got those chips, I mean, is there anything, again, that kind of screams out to you like, yeah, this just makes a lot of sense moving forward?
I mean, if you've got the trinity of wildcard, free hit, and bench boost, it seems a relatively clear path, even regardless of what your team currently looks like. I think my mic's gone down again. Excuse me while I fix that. But yeah, I think we've effectively got 3 weeks there that are going to require a bit of strategy. If you've got the chips to do that, I think you can use them. And the order is probably, obviously free hit one, wild card the other, and bench boost after wild card. So maybe what you're doing is you're free hitting first, then wild card and bench boost. So potentially dead ending into that initial free hit, then wild carding out, because obviously the free hit takes a transfer if you roll as well. So it'd be probably, off the top of my head, the best way to get the most moves into your transfers and chips. For a lot of us who I think have just 2 of those, probably wild card and bench boost, maybe free hit, I think you're probably picking a week, right? And I think Rich alluded to this. It's basically probably one of 2 approaches, and then you dangle your team based on that. For me, and I'm trying to play catch up here, but I think, is there a chance that for my team, which I have an Arsenal goalkeeper and a Bournemouth goalkeeper, which is a bit rubbish, a couple of Spurs, a couple of City, one Chelsea, etc. Is there a world where you could dead end into 34 with just transfers, try to get the most out of that, then wildcard out of it to have a decent 37, 35, 36-ish team, and then bench boost over in 37?
Yeah.
Because initially I was going to do the opposite, but I think that's probably a strategy that works for me, I think.
Yeah, so I think that's one strategy that makes sense in terms of dead ending at 34, especially for those people that already have double or triple Arsenal, double or triple Bournemouth because of the double game week they had. Liverpool, I think most people are trying to get to soon anyway with Salah. I think there is a way of doing that, and I think dead ending into game week 34 and then being able to wildcard and bench boost really quickly after probably maximises the bench boost. Rich, that's one strategy. Another strategy that quite a lot of people are doing is maybe wildcarding now, is in game week 30 or game week 31. Have you got a preference between the two?
Well, if you've got wildcard and bench boost?
Yeah.
I mean, so much of it depends on your team now, doesn't it? Like if your team looks absolutely horrific, I'd wildcard now.
Yeah.
I'd wildcard now and then worry about the bench boost in 37. I guess the only thing is there you'd really want free hit, because you are looking at 34 and 37 do look very, very different. So I think some people with free hit, for example, are just gonna maybe ignore the Liverpool players and just stick to their Spurs players, start bringing in Chelsea players, because Chelsea have got a good fixture this week.
Yeah.
And then free hit in 34. So I guess that's when free hit 34 is not really a waste, because you can actually build around it a bit like we tried to do in 29.
Yeah. And Seb, you just mentioned there about the wild card dead ending into 34 and then wild carding after. I suppose you want to make sure that if you're going down that route, you're going to be using all your transfers up, trying to get in Crystal Palace players, Wolves players, maybe some of those players that other people aren't going to have in those weeks leading up to it. Yeah, and
I mean,
Liverpool.
I need Liverpool in my team personally, but yeah, generally I think that strategy works, as you say. For me, the thing is, so when first looking at this, as Rich kind of said there, right, it's almost reversed. Obviously, who's got yeses for doubles in 34, yes, or likely yeses in 37, 35, 36. It's probably not possible to capture all of the optimal players from both of those weeks without using a chip in each of them, or at least wildcarding out of the first, so then you can set up for the second. And maybe there's some hits involved to get to 34. Because initially, when looking at this, you want to go, oh, cool, like make the most of 34 and also make the most of 37. And I don't think you can do that any other way, at least with the chips I've got available.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm in a completely different boat where I wildcarded already. So I've already used my wildcard. I've got free hit and bench boost left. So I'm looking at probably using free hit in either 34 and 37 and then using the bench boost in the opposite week.
Yeah.
I'm finding it really hard to not use free hit in 34. Like I've kept looking at strategies and I just keep looking at it and thinking, I was originally saying I wanted to bench boost in 34, but keeping my players from 34 that I've bench boosted with through to game week 37 and then free hit in 37, I'm not finding, to me, I'm looking at it and thinking I don't think that's the best way to play it. I think the best way for me to play it is what Flappy's already kind of said, is that, you know, yes, I can get Salah, but also getting those Spurs and Chelsea players, free hitting in 34 and then already having them in place, ready for the 2 double game weeks that are coming up, I think is the way to play it personally. But as I've already said, and Seb, I was going to ask you about this, there's going to be a lot of people out there that have double or triple Arsenal. There's going to be a lot of people out there with double, triple Bournemouth and Liverpool. People are going to be getting 8 Nori quite quickly, and Cunha probably when he comes back. My free hit is probably going to be very, very similar to a lot of people that haven't used their free hit, but they already have that team in game week 34. So how do you feel about that? Is that a valid argument or not?
I mean, I think you've got to take the strategy that works best for you in isolation. Yeah, FPL is PvP, but ultimately you can only optimize your own team. You know, you can't change what other people are going to do. I think the issue with, say, planning for or carrying your bench boost for a long time, right? You've identified you're basically going to have a heavy squad and not have the money where you want to have it quite a few important weeks. I think the main risk with, say, bench boosting in 37 is it's a long way away from when you've obviously set your team up to be able to do that, but you also buy yourself as many transfers as possible and you don't have to carry that bench boost for very long. I think the free hit in 34 makes sense for you. And if you end up with the same team as everyone else, it's more about the team you would have had otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a team that has triple Arsenal, triple Liverpool, whatever, then yeah, don't free hit that week. But I suspect you're not going to. So probably not in a dissimilar way to what me and Rich did, right? We free hit so that our very suboptimal team for 29 was optimal to the sound of 21 points. That's what you've got to do then. You've got to try and get as close as possible to optimal for 34 because you're better set up for optimal 37 or whatever it is.
And also, it's the hits you maybe don't have to take around it and stuff like that. So if I wasn't free hitting in 34, I would be taking hits to get to that team because obviously there are some amazing teams there with double game weeks. You know, I would need to have the Arsenal, Liverpool, even Wolves that have been quite good. Like players like 8 Nori, I think would be kind of essential in game week 34. You've got Bournemouth players, which I think most people have anyway. But you are looking at that week and thinking, just like you guys were with the free hit in 29, other people were kind of building around it and taking hits to try and get to a team. And obviously that was a low scoring week, so it probably didn't pay off. But you're looking at game week 34 and thinking it would do. There is just that worry that it could be different. What Rich said earlier, which I completely agree with, is that if you are looking at free hit in 34, you want some chaos leading up to that. So you want, you know, some big players to be out for some reason. You want some suspensions. Darwin's suspension would be massive. Something like that would really change the scene for 34. So you would end up with some different players if you were free hitting.
You do have the freedom as well, like to wait on that. You don't actually have to decide necessarily immediately. Yeah. If you are going to free hit for 34, if that's like your primary strategy, I think my mic is messing up again, apologies. If your primary strategy is 34, it's also not like you need to start making transfers for 34 immediately. So you do have that slight luxury of planning for something further in the distance and having the option of free hit in 34. Whereas say for someone like me, almost no matter what way I go, I've got to start locking in players immediately, be it on wildcard or be it with transfers with a wildcard later.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
That's a really good point, actually, because Liverpool, I kind of want to talk about Liverpool if we can, just because, I mean, I remember, go back a few weeks ago, obviously, I mean, I'd gone really, really heavy on Liverpool probably way too early. Like we mentioned, Trent got injured, but then Salah was out, but then Salah came back, so I had Jota and Darwin. This double, first of all, it's not as good. I mean, Liverpool, they're away to Fulham and Everton. I think it was 2 home games in the last one, and we've got a lot of uncertainty because we've got, obviously, when's Trent going to come back? Is Bradley going to be the one playing? I mean, Salah is back, but he still only played 90 minutes once in the whole of 2024. He's obviously not gone. I believe he didn't go with the Egypt squad, so they can get him back to full fitness. And they've got a lot of games to play as well, so there could be some slightly reduced minutes for Salah based on, we see him as a 90-minute every week player. That's speculation. Then we've got Darwin, he's got injured again. He's missed out on Uruguay. Is he gonna, have reduced minutes as well? We obviously definitely know he's not on penalties now, because Salah's back. And then even if Salah was off the pitch, we've got McAllister. So it doesn't feel easy to go for just 3 Liverpool straight away. So, I mean, first of all, that could be an advantage for you on free hit, like Seb just said, because you can pick and choose, that week. But also there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty. And also there's more doubles that week as well.
Yeah. So
I don't feel Liverpool feel like a huge standout like they did a few weeks ago, even though I desperately want them and I'm going to do my best to get to them. There's definitely some caution there. And some teams may not go in with 3.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's when, in theory, everybody looks at it and goes, we'll just be able to get to that team that all the free hitters are going to have. And then when you really start thinking about it, a few of those little spanners start coming in the works, don't they? Like you just said about Liverpool, and that's what obviously free hitters want, and that's what people wanted in the blank game week for 29 as well. If we're looking at it now, Rich, you've got wildcard and bench boost left. What's your strategy you're thinking about doing at the moment?
I mean, I think my strategy's pretty much set now.
Yeah.
There's still some flexibility to it, but yeah, I'm just going to dead end to 34. I could quite easily. I mean, I'm going to be benching a double game week player with my rough plan already and not doing any hits. Now, obviously, that could change, but yeah, dead end to 34. Then wild card probably in 35, but it could end up being 36. Bench boost 37. Season done.
If you're it's just a quick question. I will ask Seb about his strategy as well in a minute. They have no double game week. They have no double game. Hang on. They have no double game week in 34. And if you're thinking about wildcarding after 34, are you going Haaland-less up until then?
I mean, I'll have Haaland in 34, possibly, because there's not many good strikers in 34.
Okay.
I'm not going to do like Haaland to Højlund or something. Are you saying that? Am I then going to have no?
No, so then you would wildcard after 34, and then I'm assuming get Haaland back because they have the double in 37 as well.
I don't see. This is something because I haven't got much money, but looking at a wild card in 35 or 36, money's no object.
Yeah.
Because we're filling our teams with like Chelsea players who they're basically free. So no, I mean, keeping Haaland on wildcard 35 is pretty easy. It's actually going to be a struggle to use transfers. It might even get to a stage where in 37 you're keeping 2 transfers so you can bring in an Arsenal and a Liverpool asset.
Yeah.
And another key thing with that, like if people are looking at free hit 37, for example, just be aware that people who aren't free hitting, like all the doublers or most of the doublers have really good fixtures in 38. Like Spurs, you've got double and then Sheffield United away. Yeah. Chelsea have got double then Bournemouth at home. And then even Man City have got their double and then West Ham at home. So
yeah, it's nice.
I've gone off a tangent. I can't remember what you asked, but
no,
I'm going to have Haaland.
I was asking about Haaland, but obviously, like you just said there, like the wild card would hurt you, I suppose, after 34 if those doublers that are doubling in the game week 37 didn't have nice fixtures in game week 38, but majority of them do. So actually, it does seem like a really nice strategy. Seb,
it's fallen really nicely. Like even if you wildcard 35,
yeah.
like you want to get Man United and Newcastle players, Man United have got Burnley, Sheffield United have got and then Newcastle have got Sheffield United at home. Then Newcastle follow that up with Burnley away, and then it's a double. So it's almost it's almost fell.
Yeah.
Too perfectly.
Yeah, a little bit. It really has. But for all those people that have all their chips, I think this could be one of the easiest kind of ends the season in terms of how you would use your chips. Like if you had the wildcard free hit and bench boost left, I think that's just perfect personally. I mean, you would free hit in 34, wildcard after that, and then bench boost in 37, I suppose.
Yeah, and I've seen some people say, well, game week 37 is a bad time to bench boost because there could be rotation, all of this stuff, which is, I mean, there could be a valid point there, but if you've still got bench boost, you've got to use it at some point. So, like, there's very limited options now.
Although I know it's a double game week, but I was looking at game week 38. You could have a ridiculously good team in game week 38 if you wildcard in 35. You could easily bench boost in 38 if you didn't fancy 37. Like the fixtures, the
come
squad you
on.
can have. Honestly, just look at it.
Come on.
'Cause
I guess
You're then going to get all the
problem with
narratives, like when
Oh,
David
we
Silva
all
was
talked
on
over each other.
penalties.
That's amazing.
But you're gonna have what? How many people are actually gonna have 4 double game week players on their bench in 37?
Everyone that wildcards in 35.
So not everyone then. I'm just
Just the
saying. I'm
wildcarders.
just saying it's
Yeah.
interesting. But Seb, have you got your strategy nailed down?
Just wanted to point out with obviously like the 38 one that I think it's been less of a problem in recent years, but 38 is one of those weeks where you're most likely to see a lineup surprise. Yeah, I guess we hopefully get leaks because they all kick off at the same time, but there's only so much you can do with leaks if you've got one free transfer or something, right? So I'd want to be careful over 38, although maybe not stupid careful. Like I say, I think it's less risky than it's been in past years. For me, so obviously went through what I think is sensible for someone with a similar-ish team to me and similar chips. But actually, because my team, and I guess we'll see this in a minute, is probably not in the best shape. It's missing a couple of key players, like no Son, no Liverpool. I'd like better. I am tempted by the wildcard now strategy, or still wildcard later, but try and build a bench boost for 34, and the wildcard would then get me out of 34. So obviously I'm not wildcarding into a bench boost, which I guess probably means it's not the best strategy. But thinking about I think this comes from having an Arsenal keeper and a Bournemouth keeper and therefore not being able to get my double triple, right? Because
There's a big problem with that, Seb.
Go ahead.
Well, I know you don't have many. Well, you got 2 spares, haven't you? Or do you have 1?
I've got Spurs and Morrison and Porro.
Yeah. So if you're going to bench boost in 34, both of those have got to be sold because they blank in 34.
Yeah, but so I think you'd wildcard out of it, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, you'll be selling your Spurs assets when they got really good fixtures.
Well, no,
for a bench boost.
But then wildcarding them back in. You could. I
get that. It's just the act of
34.
selling them that you're going to be using.
Keep them up until 34 potentially.
Yeah.
So I think. I mean, like I said,
go without Son though.
Well, I mean, I've got no Son now. So
yeah, that's what I mean. You'll be committed to no Son.
Yeah, so part of me, that's the other one, is then wildcard now and almost do the opposite, get Son right and be able to then go through. So I don't know.
all in. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I don't want anyone to think if anyone's in a similar situation to me, this is what I'm going to do. Just sort of spitballing. But I feel like I'm on the exact same path as you, Rich. But the sort of obvious route for you makes slightly less sense for me just because my team is worse. And so I'm trying to think, is there a way I can try and make this team better?
I don't think it's worse, but you don't have Son. I guess that's the key. That's the key thing, isn't it, really? As in, you're going to be trying to get Son when I'm trying to get Salah, if you see.
Yeah, I think I'll be behind forever on like at least one of those. I can't do like Foden to Son this week or anything, so it would require a hit or further transfers and stuff.
Yeah. I think the Spurs blanking in game week 34 makes the dynamic completely different. I think if they had a game in 34, it would be very different in terms of what people are saying and how they're going to navigate it. But the fact they have a blank in 34 and then a potential double in 35, 36 and in 37, I think that just kind of bookends around 34 so nicely that free hit makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. Just
to clarify on that, I know you know this already, just the way you worded it. Obviously, Spurs are going to have 1 double in 35 or 36 and then 37.
Sorry, yeah. So they don't have 3, they've got 2. Yeah.
By the way, we just don't know if it's in 35 or 36.
FPL Harry's in the chat saying, "Hi Andy, Seb and Rich. Have you heard the latest? Saka is out for game week 30 with a grade 1 tear."
Oh, don't. This was a fake. There's a fake Harry going around.
Yeah. I did see a few bits of that. I saw, what was the other one? Oh, the one that was Saka was out for months or something, wasn't it?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we'll ignore FPL Harry like we normally do.
I mean,
unless that's the real,
unless Son would be perfect for me. That would have.
Unless that's the real Harry, and now he's just causing chaos after his fake. Just blame it on the fake.
Oh, I like it. So we'll ignore that. We'll cut that bit out. That's fine. A few people, by the way, said about free hit 38. I've seen that a little bit. I've seen a few people mentioning free hit 38. The only thing I'm a bit like dubious of free hit 38, although the fixtures are nice, is that it just makes sense to build to 38 because of the teams that are doubling in 35 and 36 are the teams that have nice fixtures in 38 as well. I don't really feel like that's the best strategy myself. And I feel like if you're waiting for a single game week, last game week of the season to do free hit, I mean, you'll get all the leaks, which would be quite nice, I guess. But I don't feel like if you've still got free hit, that is the week I would do it. It would need to really kind of stand out to me over doing it in game week 34.
It worked really nicely. Was it? I think it was the COVID season or maybe the season after. I remember doing it and it working really nicely, getting a nice boost on the last day. And I think it was one of the years when I finished very well, and that was a big part of it. The nice thing, as you said, was because you get those lineups, even in the years when we didn't get crazy leaks, you still got the best information you were going to get and could respond to it in the best possible way. But I think the reason it worked, one of those COVID years, is because it was one of the years, when we got like 3 wild cards and so on and so forth. So actually everyone was kind of left with this spare free hit that we didn't necessarily have a proper use for. I think this year, if for some reason you still have your free hit, it's a lovely bonus, but it probably isn't the best use of it now when there are other better opportunities to use it, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Before we move on to this, because obviously we're going to probably discuss it for another couple of minutes yet, I do also have Lego Mane's Hop On, Hop Off, which, by the way, if you don't follow Lego Mane, this has been one of my favourite things that comes out this season. Like he does this quite a lot now, and he updates it every couple of weeks, and I've absolutely loved using this. And I know a few other people use something quite similar, but I do love this, and it just shows you the kind of teams that we're going to be investing in moving forward. And you can see already here the double game weeks that are in for 34. You can see the potential of the double game weeks in 35, 36 and 37 as well. And some of these teams really stand out. I mean, we've mentioned already there about Chelsea and Spurs. And it just makes it look so easy to kind of invest in Chelsea and Spurs around the double game week in 34 and then be able to get them back in. The only thing I will say is the Spurs fixtures don't look amazing, but they are the kind of team that can score against anybody. But it does make it look like Chelsea and Spurs are those players that if you don't have a wild card, investing in them and free hitting in 34, Rich, makes an awful lot of sense.
Yes. I was listening. I was thinking about something at the same time.
Yeah.
If you could just repeat the very last bit.
Brilliant. Chelsea and Spurs, if you don't have your wild card, investing in Chelsea and Spurs, especially, they've got nice fixtures as well at the moment. Investing in those two at the moment, knowing you're free hitting in game week 34 with lovely fixtures after that, it just looks like it makes too much sense, doesn't it?
I mean, basically, no matter what order people play chips in, we're all striving to get the same kind of team eventually. I mean, we're literally going to be targeting the same players. And yeah, it's again why I don't like free hit 37, because I know, like we talked about it earlier, but you're literally, if you free hit in 37, you're still going to want Spurs and Chelsea in either 35 or 36, depending on where that fixture goes. So that seems like an absolute no-brainer. Something I find really interesting as well is like the next 4 weeks, going into 34, because you've kind of got this situation where Liverpool have the best fixture next week when they've got Sheffield United. City have a great fixture. Spurs have got a great fixture this week. And obviously Arsenal and City play each other. But it's very hard with players like Salah, Foden, Son, Richarlison, Saka to know when to sell them. If you want to go for a Salah, for example, you need to sell Son, Saka, Foden in the right week. And then the week after, their fixtures look really, really good. So this week, it's interesting because Arsenal and obviously City players look bad because they're playing each other. But then look at that. You're going to want Arsenal players for Luton at home, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you're going to want, if you're looking at for any reason to sell Haaland ahead of the double in 34, they've got Luton at home the week before just to really put you off from doing it. I think you're literally not going to be able to have them all. Even look at Spurs, Luton at home this week, then West Ham away, then Forest at home.
Yeah. It's not, and obviously they've got the blank. But
they've got the blank, but do you want to be selling them, or are people just going to ignore the Spurs players if they're,
Well, they did just lose 3-0 Fulham, so
do
maybe
we,
that's
do
the way to
we
go.
think the next 3 fixtures for Spurs are lovely? 34 blank, and then 35, 36 will be Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, with one of those being a double.
Yeah.
That's not the best 3 fixtures. Of Chelsea aren't the Chelsea we've seen in the past, so score some goals there. But Arsenal and Liverpool are 2 of the toughest fixtures you can get, especially Liverpool away.
The Spurs bubbles are bad, but you've got the volume of them, followed by Sheffield United.
Yeah. I don't know if you need to I mean, look, we're all going to have some Spurs, right? But if it comes down to breaking your team for Spurs in 35 and 36, there might be a better route available to you.
I mean, Chelsea would be the priority, probably. I mean, Parma obviously would be the priority.
And easy because cheap, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I guess with Son, it's like I don't have Son, I have Saka, I have Foden, I have $1 million in the bank. I can't get Son easily. And as you've just said as well, Foden's fixtures, I'd rather have Son right now, absolutely. And I'd rather have Son last week when he scored some points. Oh, sorry, the week before when he scored some points. But I'm kind of happy enough holding Foden because of those fixtures. And then same for Arsenal. So I'm not sure where I grab my Son just with 3 transfers because I can't do it for free.
Your wife walks in now.
Like, say again, sorry?
When do I grab my son?
It's been a good one to have that.
Yeah.
But I think like with Palmer, you don't have that problem just because he's so cheap. As long as you've got a midfield spot, which you will, you've got 5 of them, you can get yourself a Palmer.
Yeah. Two other teams that I just wanted to mention here before we move off these fixtures because they really stand out for me. The first one is Wolves. Wolves have quite a nice double. They got Bournemouth at home. They got Arsenal at home as well. But kind of around the double is really nice as well. So they've got Burnley, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, the double, then Luton at home. That screams to me that there's some Wolves players you should be getting. I mean, Nori I've mentioned a few times already tonight, but Seb, you surely as well, if you're wildcarding after 34, or even if you're wildcarding now, you've got to involve some Wolves in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems a pretty reasonable shout, especially for their decent prices. So they give you a bit of flexibility with your squad. I think, are we tempted by Newcastle in there a little bit as well? Just looking at
that's my second team I'm going to talk about. Stop it. Oh, no.
Sorry, dude.
Oh,
Sorry.
Seb, what do you think about Wolves? I really like Newcastle. I don't know why I bother sometimes. Yeah. So Wolves, Nori, anybody else you maybe be looking at if you were?
I hear that Kieran Trippier is really good.
Yeah. Who would you be going for from Wolves, Seb?
From Wolves. From Wolverhampton United. I mean, Nori, good shout. Hwang obviously was popular a while ago. I think you find a very similar player in FPL, that is, to Hwang. So whether that's your Cunha fit. For a third, I'm not sure. Is there an opportunistic, like, cheap player somewhere, maybe?
It's going to be tough for midfielders, I think, especially if you're wildcarding this week to maybe fit a Wolves player in. I suppose you got like players like Sarabia and that, but it might be a bit of a punt.
Yeah.
I mean, Nori, we watched him in the Cup midweek, Rich, and he had like 8 shots, scored a goal. He just seems almost essential in terms of if they're doubling and you're not free hitting in 34, I'd be all over him.
Yeah, I'm massively regretting, but there's not many transfers I've regretted recently, but I went Pau Torres during the blank instead of Nori, and I think that would have been massive. The only thing I will say on 34, obviously you're only going to want to play 3 defenders.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to want 1, maybe 2 Arsenal defenders. You're probably going to go for a Liverpool defender. So I see a lot of people talking about, like Nori, and I see people talking about the Palace wing back, not Mitchell, the other one.
Yeah,
are you going to be playing 4 or 5 at the back? Because I just don't see it. Unless you're going to be bench boosting, I don't think those players are really must-haves.
Yeah, sure.
I think people will hedge their bets and they'll just go Gabriel. I don't think they'll go double Arsenal defence unless they go the keeper.
I mean, if someone's picking from fresh, I guess you might go, like you say, Odegaard or something. But you can't go wrong with the double Arsenal defence.
No, I mean, yeah.
Unless you bench them.
They didn't score many points in 29. So, but Newcastle.
They scored more than Reguilon.
They did as well.
I missed Gabriel and Saliba that week. Oh.
I mean, the other thing, nobody's thought about this so far because we were so busy talking about Wolves. Newcastle are the other team that really stand out for me there. They've got West Ham at home, Everton at home, Fulham, Spurs, then Crystal Palace in 34, but then they've got Sheffield United at home, Burnley, Brighton and Man United in the double in 37. It screams to have, a Newcastle player or two. Seb, I'm going to go to you first because you really like Newcastle. To me, and you could tell me I'm wrong or tell me a few others, Isak is all of a sudden starting to creep into people's thinking, and people are thinking maybe they're going to go with 3 up top and Isak being one of them.
Creeping out soon.
And also, that sounded so creepy. And also, obviously with Botman out now, Lascelles all of a sudden is back on our radar. So is there anybody there that's kind of standing out for you?
I really like Ryan Nori for this period.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. We're talking about Newcastle.
So I've still got Kieran Trippier in my team, so that's a nice little gift there. I so badly want to somehow get that Wilson Isak call again correct, but
Yeah.
I think we're a year on. I think it's very much Isak now. So I think Trippier, obvious, Isak, unless something changes between now and then. Look, if there's an injury, if Wilson's nailed, we know that makes a lot of sense. But I think you're going Isak. Your man, Gordon, is potential there because I think with what Rich said, with the double defence, if you've got Trippier, that's one of your defenders. Are there going to be times when you've got this triple Newcastle or even double Newcastle and their defenders, and half the time you bench one of the Newcastle defenders? There's probably a better way of accessing Newcastle with planning your squad around this period.
Yeah. And I mean, Rich, is it, if you are wildcarding after 34 or you're wildcarding early, when do you jump on Newcastle? Because their fixtures are quite nice for the next 2 weeks, and they got the nice Sheffield United fixture. They don't have a double in game week 37. So is it a bit premature getting them now unless you're wildcarding?
Yeah, I mean Trippier's obviously injured. We don't know, how long that's going to be, and obviously their stats have dropped off a cliff.
Yeah,
we were lauding them at the end of last season, the start of this season, but I mean they've really dropped off a cliff. So I mean I do think they will be involved in wildcard 35 with a view to bench boost. I think almost certainly be going there. And like I said, money's no object. So I know people have been talking about Lascelles and stuff. Although to be honest, that could help someone now. Like if someone needs to free up a little bit of money because they want to get to Salah, they've got the exact money to do that. I think you could do a lot worse than Lascelles, but I don't think people would be looking at him in the game week 35 wildcard, for example.
Yeah.
Isak, and I mumbled something about him earlier, but he's one of those players that just worries me. You bring him in and he gets injured straight away. And I know people warn me or warn us about Reece James all the time, and we don't listen. So I can understand, there's a lot of temptation there. He's obviously nailed while Wilson's out. He's on penalties. But he gets injured.
Yeah, he does.
He does get injured.
I like it. There's a few little options that are.
I guess there's quite a few people with
now.
Dubravka probably still. That probably works quite nicely.
But Pope could be coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
although was it April though? It might have been the end of April, which actually is only a month away. So
by
risky,
the way,
isn't it?
FPL Spartans is in the chat saying if you look at the fixtures, Crystal Palace, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, Tyreek Mitchell for the win, lads. But I think it is Munoz that's going to be very popular now because he scored for Colombia midweek as well, didn't he? And he looks like a really, really good prospect. So we'll talk a bit more about Game Week 34 when we get there, but it's just interesting talking about how we are thinking about manoeuvring round these game weeks as it goes. So for the people that have maybe just joined us, for the people that want a really, really quick rundown, Seb, rundown by the way, not rub down, Seb, how are you going to be at the moment? Which one is most likely to be your strategy? Just really quickly.
Genuinely not sure. I am, as we speak, looking at a wildcard 30, so I can talk about it in a minute, which is now. So for content, that maybe.
Okay, Rich.
Sorry, I was reading something in the chat. Can you say it again?
Are you joking?
I am concentrating. It's just a lot going on in the chat right now.
Flapjack FPL. Right. No, it is that's right. I surnamed.
Don't full name me.
Yeah. So if you had to tell everybody really, really quickly now, for anybody that's kind of wanting it summed up, what is your strategy that you're looking at moving forward?
Oh, my chip strategy?
Yeah.
I mean, I basically already said it. So I don't know why my voice went high. Basically. No, so I'm planning to dead end 34.
Yeah.
My decisions really, I mean, I'm going to bring Liverpool players in, but I might do it slowly. And I'm struggling with who to sell because I can free up the money to do it. Yeah. Watkins is almost certainly going.
Yeah.
I've actually got a lot of money tied up in him because I've sold him about 3 times. So yeah, dead end to 34, then wildcard 35, bench boost 37, and in an ideal world, I'd like to have 2 free transfers for 38. Although I think the doubles are so powerful before that, I'm not going to worry about 38 too much. Yeah. I know people can focus on that a lot. I remember many podcasts talking about like David Silva. Is he going to be on penalties and all this kind of stuff from seasons gone by? There's always some tale why it's best to save free hit for that week, etc. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to worry about that the doubles are the priority.
Yeah. And for anybody that's interested in my one, it will be, because I don't have a wild card, it will be...
Yours is interesting.
It'll be most likely free hit in 34, bench boost in 37, and it will be... I'm bringing in Salah this week, and then it will be focusing on bringing in those Chelsea boys, really, because I have Palmer, but that's it. But I don't think it's a massive rush until 32 to get the Chelsea boys in, because that's when they play Sheffield United and then Everton. So that seems quite nice, and then free hit in 34. Liverpool, I feel like I want Salah for Brighton and Sheffield United, and that's it really. And then we'll see how we get on after 34. But yeah, so that's kind of how I'm going at the moment.
What Chelsea? Because I know we said about Liverpool how it's hard to know which ones to go for. Chelsea, you obviously need Reece James news to know if Gusto's a nailed asset.
Well,
at Spurs, there's been some comments about Richarlison. He sat on the bench the other days. He's so pivotal for Spurs.
I mean, I'm just going to mention it, and people will laugh, but then in a couple of weeks' time, they're going to start talking about him. Nicholas Jackson might start creeping into teams. He could do,
people don't even argue with Darwin anymore. Jackson's going to be in wild cards. It's all coming up, Scoutcast.
Just saying it. Right, should we do some over or unders? Because I think this will be quite interesting with the fixtures moving forward. So we've got 6 over or under players here. If you haven't watched this before, this is when I give the boys 6 players and I tell them what their next 3 fixtures are, and I also tell them the projected points, which I have made up. These are not from anything. These are what I've made up. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Sometimes
they're proven
good,
to be more
sometimes
accurate than any commercially available model as well.
It's true. And Seb is also, the lovely man that he is, going to be reviewing these next week as well to see how we got on.
And they're all wearing home kits.
Thank God. The first one up is Alexander Isak. I put him as 12.5. He's got West Ham at home, Everton at home, Fulham away. Nice fixtures. Seb, 12.5 points. What do you think, over or under?
Well, Rich thinks he's injured instantly, so you can't get points when you're injured.
Does he? Oh,
no, he's not actually injured.
You can't get Isak. He gets injured, Andy.
Right, you didn't get Isak. You got Wilson, jammy captain.
Yeah, no, I'm still dining out on that one. I literally a year later. I will go under. I think you need. Actually, you don't even need more than a couple of goals, do you? I'll go under because I said it, but actually I think over because score 2 goals and he probably gets over that, but I'll go under.
Rich?
I'm going to go over.
Nice. I would go over as well, I think, there.
Next 2 are too good.
Son is up next. He's got Luton at home. I mean, who doesn't own him for Luton at home? Then West Ham away and then Nottingham Forest at home. I've got him as 14.5 points. So, Rich, over or under 14.5?
Easy over. Yeah, I might go over this week.
Yeah, I like it. Seb?
Praying under, probably over. Can we have some sort of Luton low block narrative? I've not heard enough of that, right?
No.
You know, Son doesn't work against these low block teams, guys.
Exactly. Next up, though, I've got Foden. He's got Arsenal at home, Aston Villa at home, Crystal Palace away. I've only got him as 10.5, Seb. What do you think, over or under? One of the best midfielders to own this whole season.
I mean, he gets more than half that just turning up for those matches, doesn't he? Assuming he plays. And he does seem, classic Pep caveat, but he does seem more fancied in the lineup now than he has been in the past. So he only really needs one return-ish to get close to your score. So I'd be tempted to say over. But I am very heavily leaning into the idea that I don't have Son and I do have Foden in.
Yeah.
So lots of hopium maybe rather than a calculated thought.
FPL Spartans, by the way, says easy over. Rich ordering his eggs for breakfast.
Oh no, I like them hard boiled.
Yeah. Rich.
It's a type of egg, by the way.
I know it is.
Thanks for clarifying. But
yeah, cheers. Yeah,
that's why he laughed.
Yeah. Rich, Foden, over or under 10.5?
Oh, over. Easy over.
Easy
he's
over.
Hard-boiled over.
Yeah, he's exactly. 8 Nori up next. Aston Villa away, Burnley away, West Ham at home. I've only got him as 8.5, Rich. What do you think, over or under?
You've gone very low. I think the last game week has corrupted you.
Maybe.
Corrupted your model.
My model.
You have. Yeah, I'm going over. Yeah, the new FPL mode model, not just Challenge FPL.
Oof.
Yeah.
People will pay for that. What do you think, Seb?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I feel like I could say, I know I said under for Isak and I regret it, stick to it. But like, I think over for the rest, including this one, seems the most likely outcome.
Muniz is up next. Sheffield United away, Nottingham Forest away, Newcastle at home. Probably one of the most informed strikers in the league at the moment. 9.5 I've got him for the next 3. What do you think, Seb?
Well, form is very, very important to me.
It is. You love form.
So, I do. I mean, yeah, again, it feels like, because again, a goal bonus, then turn up and you've cleared 9.5. So, and I think a couple of goals is possible in this run. So I'll
Ooh.
go over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
What do
because
you
it's
think,
just
Rich?
4. It's like 4 non-appearance points, isn't it? So he did go off, didn't he, after he scored the second goal? I was in the pub
He
at the
did.
time
Yeah.
playing darts, but yeah, he did. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
I was
Either he
watching.
went off or I went off. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm going to go over again. I'm going to go over again.
Okay, interesting.
Easy
Maybe
over.
I have gone too low on these this week. We've got the man himself, the king, Mo Salah at the end, 15.5 points. And it is, wow. And it is, sorry, we just got a massive super chat, so we'll talk about that in a minute. And it is Brighton Hove Albion at home, Sheffield United at home, and then Man United away. What do you think, Seb? Over or under?
He's getting over before he even faces Man United in this run, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll only have 4 points going into that United game and he'll smash it. Rich?
Thinking. I'm going to go under.
Ooh.
Oh, good oohing, Seb. That was good synchronized oohing. I like it.
I've just gone under on the best player on the list.
Before
the best player in the game.
Before I forget, we've had a $22 super chat, and it's from Kay, and it's on wildcard 30, free hit 34, bench boost 37, Petrovic, Onana, Udogi, Lascelles. You might want to look at this, by the way. Gusto, Son, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Haaland, Isaac, Darwin, locked. I've got remaining 3 spots. I have Madison 7.9, Porro 5.6, Gabriel 5. Is selling the former 3, 15.9 in the bank. Any suggestions? So who's he not got if he's wildcarding now, basically? So has he got triple City and triple Spurs and triple Chelsea? He's got Gusto, which I think is a tough one getting him now.
So this is wildcarding now, right?
Yeah.
Free hit
With a strategy of free hit 34, which I guess makes sense.
I tell you what. So the next couple of minutes is not us working this out.
I can answer it quickly.
Oh, go on then.
Go
Well, I was just thinking I'd want to keep my eye on Madison. On Richarlison. It sounded. Let's see what he does for Brazil tomorrow night, because I'd much rather, if Richarlison looks like he's going to start against Luton, much rather have Richarlison over Madison. Porro, I think's fine, and Gabriel. So yeah, I like those 3. If that's what he's asking, is it basically asking about those 3 spots? Because they all seem to make sense. They all seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, I think he's.
Even Gabriel. I guess Gabriel. I mean, I'm not on wildcard, but I guess Arsenal. It's a tricky one, because you could start looking at Spurs assets, Chelsea assets, like Van Dijk as well potentially.
I like it though. I think he's set that team up really well, especially with the free hit 34 as well. I think that's good. There's not a lot I would really change about that, I don't think. Yeah, I think he smashed it.
I'd genuinely just be tempted by like Raya. I think that might work better with the way you'd want to play your goalkeepers and defenders going forward. But yeah, just trying to protect that. I think otherwise,
very quickly as well, before we move on to our best team, Stay asks, and this is not for you, Seb, so he says you can sit this one out if you like, says, you'll see why in a minute, that's not us being rude, says, what's the significance of our handles? So I've got FPL mode, and obviously Rich is Flapjack. Rich, do you want to explain the Flapjack one first?
I genuinely don't know. I think I was literally like eating one. So I could have been kebab, could have been anything, couldn't I? Benson and Hedges, who knows? Like,
mine is I was trying to set up a NFL fantasy team name, and there was a player at the time called Marshawn Lynch, and he was beast mode. And I'm a teacher, so I changed mine to Teach Mode was my name, and then I was FPL Teach Mode when I joined Twitter. So yeah.
You eating Skittles?
Yes, I was. Yeah. Right.
Oh, mine is because
because of my mom and dad.
I guess like so. My dad really liked Brideshead Revisited. There's a character in that called Sebastian, so he was a character he enjoyed.
What's your real name? Sebastian.
I got called Sebastian. And
not Little Mermaid then.
No. Well, that was just a happy accident, you know. Years later, get associated with the crowd.
My dad was a massive Little Mermaid fan. He was hope for a girl.
I didn't have a name for the first few years of my life. They were just waiting for that.
Amazing. Right, bus teams then. So this is me at the moment. I've got Neto in goal, got Gabriel, Zabani and Udogi. I wasn't planning on playing Gabriel, but then Reguilon got suspended. Then I've got Palmer, Bowen, Son, who is my captain at the moment, with Alanga and Saka. And then Watkins and Tony up top. I've got my 2 Luton boys on the bench, which is Doughty and Morris, with Reguilon, who's suspended on the bench as well, and Areola. I think it's fine. I'm really hopeful that Bournemouth could keep a clean sheet. That'd be quite nice. But apart from that, I feel all right. Wasn't expecting to play both Arsenal players this week, but Saka and Gabriel, you never know, they could do okay. And if fake Harry's anything to go by, I'm not going to have to worry about Saka anyway. So, so it's not too bad. I will be selling Bowen for Salah. That's the other thing as well. And then Salah could be my captain. Obviously, they got Brighton at home. So Salah will be in this team as well. I've still got 13 million in the bank, whatever it is. We'll see how it goes. But the original plan was to do Bowen to Salah this week and then do Watkins to Haaland next week. And knowing that people that are going to be wildcarding might not have Watkins is making me feel a bit better too. So, I feel it feels okay. Feels all right moving forward.
So you're not tempted to bench boost then? No, but serious question. Would you captain Son or Salah?
I think Salah. I think if I brought Salah in, I think I would. But I think Palmer, Son, and Salah, having those three, feels pretty strong this week. I'm not going to lie. I feel like that's quite nice. I don't feel like I'm going to miss Haaland this week. I was always not going to have him this week anyway. So, if like I said, it feels okay. I feel like I've got the three best captain options this week if I get Salah as well. And then I think I will go with Salah.
I feel like Haaland has never punished you. That's just I remember him playing against 10 men and you got away with it.
Yeah, it's been 2 years now, and every time I've gone against him, it's worked so far. So,
yeah, I can't relate either.
Yeah. Let's move on to Rich's bus team. So talk us through your bus team, my man.
Yeah, I've started to like it less and less as the international international break's gone on. But I've got the same double Bournemouth as you, or triple actually, but double defence. So Neto and Zabardi. I've got Pau Torres, who I did for that. You remember that -8 a few weeks ago instead of 8 Nori. So maybe here finally do something. And I'm starting Gabriel, which actually I don't mind. Like, I genuinely, Arsenal was so good defensively, and he is a genuine threat. So actually benching him, even though it's an awful fixture, that would worry me just as much. So I'm happy starting him. Then I've got Foden, Son captain, Palmer, and Richarlison. I mentioned those comments earlier about Richarlison. It was from the Brazil national coach.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident Richarlison had a good shot at starting against Luton. If he doesn't, maybe I'm going to have to look at playing Saka over Richarlison. But it's just the thing is, if Richarlison starts, I was even looking at, if I knew Richarlison started, I'd potentially even captain him over Son. But I don't think I'm going to know that. So, and then Solanke, Watkins, and Haaland up top. And then my bench is like Areola, Saka, Saliba, and Doughty. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to do a move. I mean, I can get Salah, but it would take a hit. And I don't want to lose Foden yet. I don't want to lose the Spurs boys yet. I don't want to lose Saka either. I did look at could I do Saka to Salah, but then I've got to bench someone, and then obviously Saka's got Luton at home next week.
I think it looks all right. I think it looks okay. So there's no chance you get Salah this week, you say?
No, I definitely won't. I mean, I've held Palmer and Richarlison so long now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of. I think even actually, if Richarlison's bench, I'm going to be tempted to start him over Saka.
I'm going to be loving life if I'm the only one owning Salah in this threesome. Then
4th best defence in the league, Brighton.
Wow. Yeah, but still Salah. Seb,
that surprises me.
Is that the last 6?
How often I swear we see them?
No, it's over the season. It's over the season.
Yeah. Seb, talk us through your team.
Sure. So let's bring it up here. So I currently have Neto in goal, Trippier with an orange flag, Pedro Porro and Kakez playing, probably not playing realistically. Captain Palmer at the moment, Foden, Maddison vice-captain, Douglas Luiz, Solanke, Haaland and Watkins up front, with David Raya, Saka, Gabriel and Dirty on the bench. There are 3 yellow flags and 1 orange flag in this team, and some suboptimal picks, both in terms of minutes, I guess, in probably Kirk's point, and then just a lack of, say, Salah, Son. So you can see why I think, I'm on the same sort of path as Rich, but I think my team is much more open to, say, this wild card now than, say, Rich would be, because I think I would get a gain that, say, Rich wouldn't, because I grab Son, grab Salah, but also remove a bunch of the players that are causing me a bit of a problem. So I did just fumble around with a wild card really quickly. This probably won't quite add up, so apologies there, but just looking at like what I'd look at. And hopefully this maybe helps the question we had to Super Chat as well, because I was just looking at that and thinking, that's a big Super Chat, so I want to make sure we do this properly. So potentially I think Raya and Petrovic would be my goalkeepers. I've enjoyed Raya as an option. So I think I'd stick with that. Defense of Pedro Porro, I guess Udogi's pretty similar. possibly a Chelsea defender. We'd want to know about Gusto, Reece James, Zazie, what have you, but I think a Chelsea defender makes sense. I think I'd go Bradley, and that's a defender Kay didn't have, so I'd be interested in thinking, obviously slightly shorter term, but if Trent is out, I think Bradley works nicely. Then Gabriel and Unsure. Was looking around as like Everton, potentially a City to carry, not perfect. Unsure on that last one. Then midfield, I think is a lot easier, right? You go Salah, Son, Palmer, probably try to hold Saka, maybe try and squeeze Richarlison in. That's where the money problems would come. I'd be tempted by Wolves as well. I think this is where Wolves come into the team. Potentially Wolves come into that defender spot as well. Maybe that's where Nori sits. And then the strikers, Haaland, Darwin, probably pick themselves. Suspensions and stuff notwithstanding, but wildcarding now, so you'd have to have that. Then I guess you go Isak, other option being Solanke, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, with transfers, so with 34 coming, you just need to be losing Spurs players ahead of that, or be able to bench them, but then to have them for the doubles later on, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I did want to mention as well, that all this talk of Richarlison, completely forgot that moves Son back to the left wing.
Yeah.
Well, I think we probably have enough data to say he is less effective. In any match, especially against poorer opposition, he absolutely could go off. But I am marginally less worried if I don't own him if Richarlison starts up front.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think General Zod mentioned it in the chat, by the way, saying how varied our teams are now. And actually, they really are. They all look really different.
I didn't realise that me and Seb's team was so different.
Yeah.
I like your defenders, Seb. What has happened? It's like the wing backs who've all got injured. Club.
I had Pau Torres as well, mate, and I did Pau Torres. I think it's been a journey, mate. It's a miracle, and when I say miracle, I mean incredible large amounts of jam that I'm like within the top 30k. I do not deserve to be there. Like I don't think I've had a hit pay off for about like 5 weeks, and again, that's not really a sob story. I think some of them have been bad hits. But like, the Bournemouth ones, I think I came out net negative. I did the same thing as you with like the Pau Torres, and that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, Pau Torres destroyed. Even when we did Alvarez to Solanke, it took ages to pay off.
Yeah, and I think I had a hit involved that like Haaland and someone to get them back in as well. That didn't go so well. Lacking Son. So yeah, I think my team needs a little bit of work.
The only thing I'd say is you mentioned, and I know you're not set on this, you just winged it. I guess you'd say about selling the Spurs assets ahead of 34.
Yeah,
but then I suppose you wouldn't have the wild card to then teleport, 3 Chelsea and 3 Spurs.
Yeah, so potentially that's just benching. I mean, I guess actually because I was talking about bench boost last night, but if you're bench boosting 37, so with that wild card 30, I'd be bench boosting 37. So yeah, potentially I'm just benching those Spurs players.
Spurs have limited the variety of strategy so much. That's what's quite impressive that we might have 3 different ones. Because I do see why you're thinking of it, because I know there's not that many differences in our teams, but there's key differences, aren't there? Like Douglas Luiz is basically a dead asset now. I mean, maybe he'd be good for this week, at home to Wolves, but you're not going to keep him ongoing, are you? And he's not going to free up much money when you sell him.
Yeah, it feels like there's. I can't even do him to Richarlison. I've got $1 million in the bank. I'd be like 0.2 short. So even just an easy free transfer to really, okay, I can't get Son, fine, make my peace with that, but grab my triple Spurs, Captain Richarlison, maybe that helps a bit. I think if it weren't for the fact that I was missing, say, Son, Salah, 2 big players, or I had, say, a better / fitter defense going here, maybe I could struggle through. But it does feel, and I often say, don't do this, use wild cards when you plan to. But this does feel like an example of getting ahead of my plan slightly just to fix a bit of a broken team. And while that won't be the optimal wildcard strategy for everyone, I think it might be for me just because of the state my team's in.
Yeah, that's why Richarlison's so pivotal, though, like you just mentioned, because, I mean, if, let's say we knew that Richarlison was going to start, you could just maybe find a way to get Richarlison in and not go for Son, and then your next worry is just going to be Salah. And then for me, next week, when Liverpool have got Sheffield United, if I'm confident Salah's going to play, I can just sell Son for Salah, and I've still got Richarlison. And I know that's talking about coverage, but Richarlison's almost as good as Son if he's playing through the middle. The only real decisive thing is obviously Son's a better finisher and he's got the penalties. Yeah.
If for the good of the stream, if all 3 of us wildcard at different times at the end of the set, I mean that I don't
wildcard special every week.
Yeah,
exactly. It would only be a shame if I do wildcard that it won't be. Maybe we could do a Friday, Andy, if I do wildcard.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just because it'd be a shame not to talk about it. But I genuinely don't know at this point. Anyone is a similar situation to me. I'm sorry for your loss, but I don't know what I'm doing at this stage.
Oh, imagine Kirkes scores against Everton.
Speaking of people that don't know what they're doing, on to the com team. So the com team, free hit this week. They had Flecking in goal with 2, Reguilon with -3, Doughty with 1, Pedro Porro with 1, Bowen with 2, Madison with 2, Son with 4, Kudus with 1, Morris with 2, Watkins with 2, and Tony with 1. So they got 15 points on their free hit, and they saw a red arrow down to 176k.
Imagine
Come
free hit
on.
not getting 21.
Come on, community team, you can't let this happen. You can't let all 3 of us beat you. Come on, Matt and Dan, sort it out. Come on.
They had us on the ropes. They had me on the ropes. Do you remember?
Never.
Like they did. Like they were miles ahead of me at Christmas.
Yeah, cream rises, though, mate.
Do we know what their strategy might be going forwards?
Just try harder, I think. People in the chat, chuck us in your questions. We've got about 5 minutes. We can answer as many questions as possible.
Oh, we can get halfway through a question.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be all right. Ogioko says, solid discussion today, guys. Plenty of dissenting points, which is always welcome. Was so disheartened after a failed Game Week 29 free hit, but this helped inspire me going forward. Thank you very much. Alan Goldsmith says, Dice Brains is an anagram of Andy, Rich and Seb. There you go. We are quite defensive.
Take your word for it.
Dice Brains probably works, doesn't it? So yeah, like I said, chuck us in your questions, and we'll try and answer as many as possible in the last kind of 5 minutes or so. Zafer says try harder, and he's laughing a lot. I don't get it. I've said it every week. Just try harder, get more points, and they're not listening. What else can you do? You can lead a horse to water, can't you? Terrible. Right, Luke
Ever
says,
since you got to the top 50k, Andy, you've been
I changed. Luke, do I do a -4 to do Tony and Gibbs White to Muniz and Salah, and then wildcard in 31? So does he take a hit to do -4 Tony and Gibbs White to Muniz and Salah, Seb?
I don't think so. Only because that hit to then wildcard in 31 doesn't feel like the optimal use of those 4 points. But maybe I'm wrong, Rich.
Yeah. Rich?
I mean, I just looked because I hadn't looked at Fulham's fixtures. So yeah, Fulham are away at Sheffield United, and Sheffield United. It seems, I don't know if it's statistical at all. Sheffield United do seem to concede more at home.
Yeah, they go for it a bit more.
But I don't particularly like it. I don't particularly like doing a hit. I know the fixtures are okay, but I don't get it because you'll be wildcarding to get Salah next week anyway if you're wildcarding. So, no, I don't see the point. I think either wildcard or don't.
I mean, if you wildcarded this week, you could grab those 2. You know, if you think those 2 are going to go off, you could grab those 2.
I'm guessing it's because he doesn't want Muniz long term.
Yeah, but if that's one player, that's maybe. I mean, I don't think either is the optimal way, but if it's one player, that's not a massive sacrifice.
Yeah.
Not really. And then you're wildcarding next week, and you've already got Salah, so that's one less reason to do it.
FPL Chai is in the chat, who, by the way, awesome lad, and he wildcarded at the same time as me. What are your season rank projections from the 3 of you? So let's start with you, Rich. What are you going with for where you think you're going to finish, or where you're trying to finish?
I don't know.
16k.
You can't like control where you finish. This is something I've learned. Like I have finished top 10k for about 4 years. The 2 of the last 3 years, I've been hovering around 10k, and then dropped off to like 20k. So I think I'm going to finish 25k again.
Oh, Seb.
I've done pretty well the last few years, apart from 1 year. So I think I'm probably due a bad one on 27k. So just hold on to this. I think it'll be fine. It's been a pretty poor season from me, I think. So I will take what I'm given.
That's depressing end.
Oh, such a poor season.
I'm only joking. I'm going to
27k.
I mean, there's no way of not sounding like a dick.
Season over.
So apologies. What I mean is like the 27k is undeserved. So like I don't mean like, oh, I've done so bad not to be like top 5k. 27k is undeserved. I don't think I've played to deserve that, so I will take it.
We've just had 400 people leave the chat.
Fair, sorry.
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be the only one out of the 2, a lot of us that will be, and I'm going to say I'm going to finish 14k because that would be my best ever finish.
All right, I'm going to finish 2k then.
No, brilliant.
I'm just going to copy your team.
I like it. Yeah, who else we got? We hopefully got a few more. Snadevil says Robertson for anybody. Seb, you tempted by Robertson with Liverpool's double?
Don't think so. I think I'd grab Conor Bradley if I was after a Liverpool fullback, which is going to be slightly shorter term, right?
Yeah. Rich?
This is something I've looked at with my future plans, and I think it's probably going to be Van Dijk.
Yeah.
It's boring though, isn't it?
Interesting. Well, Indy's kind of asked something interesting there as well about what's the final bandwagon of the season, do you think? So, Rich, who's going to be the bandwagon that nobody can see coming at the moment, but will be in more teams moving forward?
Yeah, if you could just see coming the thing that no one will see coming, that'd be really useful. Thanks, mate. Also, lottery
Yes.
numbers.
Okay, I'll tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be Elise.
Oh,
Because something will happen. I think a lot of people, because have you noticed Palace's fixtures,
Good.
and I don't know if he's going to be back, but Palace's fixtures are awful in like the 2 weeks before their double. They've got City away in 32,
Oh, yeah, just seen that.
and then they've got
It
Liverpool
reminds me
away
something
in
would be-
33. So you're coming
Yeah.
off the worst two fixtures,
yeah.
and then going into a decent double where, yeah. So I'm going to go Elise because I think
Nice.
a lot of people go Eze, so then people would try and be different with a better player.
Yeah. Seb?
Callum Wilson rekindle some past
Callum
glory.
Wilson, I
He's,
like it.
he's expected back the 11th of May, so he has 1 week Brentford away to score some goals.
Well, I've said mine. I think Nicholas Jackson is going to start sneaking into teams.
I think it's a really good chat. I think it makes
The
a lot of sense.
strikers have got bad again because Watkins is now not that important.
Yeah.
I think there's a lack of them, whereas a few weeks ago we were struggling to squeeze them all in.
I think Nicholas Jackson is perfect as well because people will laugh that you think people will be getting him, and then I think it's going to become like a bit of a bandwagon at some point, but we'll see.
I mean, I laughed.
That makes a ton of sense. You've got my support. I mean, he would make some sense on a wild card this week if you were doing it.
Exactly. And
What
some of
about
us are thinking about
Pedro?
playing it. Pedro?
We go Pedro again.
Oh, what?
Oh,
Wow,
João Pedro.
I didn't think who that was for a second then. Yeah, you could do, couldn't you? I don't, because Brighton have obviously got a double at some point. So we'll see what happens there. Right. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. I have no idea how many people watch us anymore because the way we now stream, I don't even get to see what it is, so I don't get to see. But make sure you like and subscribe, guys. And if you've got any nice things to tell us, make sure you put them on Twitter because we always love reading them. But we do hope that we helped you a little bit this week. And thank you so much for joining us. Rich, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. No, it's good. I missed this.
Yeah, me too. Seb, hope you enjoyed yourself as well, my man.
I did, yeah. I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
That sounded hesitant, didn't it? I was
I
going
was trying to think of something nice to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say I missed it too, and then I was like, "Oh, Rich just said that. What does that sound worse?" And then I just didn't say anything, which just sounded worse than all of it. So yeah.
Well,
I think I've nailed that. Great, thanks, guys.
yeah, no worries. I'm hoping that I can stop the stream, but I've got no idea whether I'm going to be able to. So we'll see what happens in a minute. But thank you so much for all the guys that have joined us tonight. Thank you so much for all the girls that have joined us tonight as well. And we will see you all again next week. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.